Good afternoon. This is Bob Thompson with Salt Lake County Flood Control Engineering and the Watershed Planning and Restoration Program. I'm here to present on the status of the 2023 snowpack. This snowpack is a very impressive snowpack, and it comes from banner precipitation that's been streaming across from California through Nevada and hitting Utah. Most of the basins in Utah are well above average, and our local basins were above 130% of average. So this has been an incredible water year. And as a reminder, the water year begins on October 1st of every year and goes through September 30th of the next year. The great news about having all of that precipitation is the drought status in the state of Utah is looking better than it has in quite a long time. To zoom in on our state specifically, we've still got some extreme drought in south central Utah, but we've got better drought conditions through most of Utah than was observed 1 year ago. In fact, every category has improved in the last 12 months. The drought is forecast to continue through most of the state of Utah. There are some areas that may be delisted from drought. That is a possibility, but I think it has a lot to do with how the rest of our water year shapes up. But so far, good news on that front. The reason why our drought is shaping up to be a little bit better than it has in the past is because we've got an incredible snowpack through most of the basins in Utah. This slide is showing a series of numbers based on SWE, or snow water equivalent. That's basically how much water resides in our existing snowpack. And the numbers you're looking at are percent of normal to date. So those numbers are way above 100%, which means we've got more than expected for this time of year. Now, there's lots of automated sites that measure the snow water equivalent in the snowpack around Salt Lake City, and all of the dots in this slide represent individual SNOTEL locations that measure that information. So we're going to look at individual sites, starting with the accumulation of all the sites in the Jordan Basin. Now, in this slide, I'm showing all of those cumulative SNOTEL sites, and I've also got a few different water years highlighted here. The bottom curve is the average curve over the last 30 years. The darker green curve is the 2017 water year. The orange curve is the 2019 water year, and the red curve is the 2011 water year. Above all of those curves, you can see the 2023 water year. We are truly in uncharted territory. This is the deepest snowpack over the last 30 years that we've seen in the Jordan River Basin. And you can see the way that the snowpack melted over those years is quite different. In 2017, we had a massive snowpack in early March, and then we had a warming event where the snowpack decreased, and then we had another accumulation event in late March and early April, and we stepped that snowpack down over a series of events. In 2019, we accumulated until almost early May. It was mid-April when we stopped accumulating, and the snowpack melted in a few events after that. 2011, we didn't peak out until early May, and in 2023, we're not sure what's going to happen yet. When looking at snow water equivalent at Lewis Meadow, it looks like we've got almost 30 inches of water in the snowpack. Lewis Meadow is one of the lower elevation sites that SNOTEL measures, and this one's located in City Creek. So at the lower elevation sites in City Creek, we've got approximately 30 inches of snow water equivalent in that snowpack, which is much higher than our max value measured to date. City Creek further up at Lookout Peak, we are right on par with our highest values measured. Again, a lot of snow, a lot of water, 40 inches at that location. Parley Summit is one of the SNOTEL sites that has a very long period of record. So on this site, I've got the 1984 water year. That's the blue curve that's at the top. The 2023 water year is the black curve underneath that. And the 2011 water year is underneath that. And 2011 is kind of considered to be our banner year of recent record. So looking at those years, 2023 is truly an impressive snowpack. At this particular site, it's not as impressive as 1984, But the thing to note is 1984 melted in more or less one melt event that started in early to mid-May, and it just proceeded until the snowpack was gone. 2011 at least melted in a series of melt events that were truncated by some brief storms that blew through and slowed down the melt. So from a flood control perspective, we're hoping for something like that happened in 2011, where we get a couple of events truncating that melt, because 2023 has enough water that we would be looking at problems if it didn't come down in chunks. Moving further south, Big Cottonwood Watershed. This one is located in the Mill D drainage. This is in the south-facing side of the canyon. Again, 2023 is significantly above the max year, which in this case is 2011 for this snowtail site. And further up the canyon at Brighton, 2023 is significantly above historic high values as well. At Snowbird and Little Cottonwood Canyon, the snow water equivalent is almost at 60 inches currently, and we have a long time to go before this snowpack stops maturing. So we don't expect this one to stop accumulating anytime soon. In an average water year, it wouldn't peak out until May 1st, and in a high water year, it generally peaks out later than that. So this one, we have to sit and watch for a long time before we know what to expect out of the snowpack in Little Cottonwood Canyon. So what we can do is we can pay attention to our precipitation and temperature forecasts. Currently, the March forecast is to have above normal precipitation, and this has worked out to be a fairly true statement. And the seasonal precipitation outlook as issued March 16th shows that we have about normal weather expected for the Salt Lake Valley. Now, what that means is our wettest months of the year, March, April, and May, so we would expect normal snowpack accumulation to proceed throughout the rest of the spring. Our monthly temperature forecast, we've got for the month of March, below normal temperatures forecast. And for our seasonal temperature forecast, we have kind of a hub of possibly leaning below normal temperatures throughout the spring. Likewise, our seasonal stream flow forecast is set to be above average, and it doesn't really matter if the snowpack melts all in one chunk or if it melts in a series of truncated events. It's fair to say that our stream flow is going to be very high, it's going to be very fast, and it's going to be very cold. So do we have any capacity to store any of this water? Utah Lake has almost 4 feet to compromise. It's hovering between 50 and 60% capacity as of late. So there's a significant amount of capacity in Utah Lake. And in other local reservoirs, capacity does exist to store water. Many water managers are choosing to spill water at this time to try to make more capacity, because we do have a looming runoff that should provide lots of water to refill those reservoirs. So this is good news for our reservoir, our water storage, and even for the Great Salt Lake temporarily. And with that, that's the end of my presentation. If you have any questions, please contact Salt Lake County Flood Control. You can reach us at 385-468-6600. Thank you.